let's use Dr. Ben Carson and maybe a personal story from me to learn a little bit more how to read between the lines and to ask the right questions when the secular media is involved. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
Discernment. It's actually a gift from God to have discernment. The discerning of spirits is mentioned in the New Testament as a gift. And just discernment in general, all Christians should have discernment. For that matter, non-Christians should have discernment. You know, follow your gut type of thing. What is that called? The female intuition. It's all good. But the truth of the matter is that sometimes things are so slick and they are so well put together that we get tricked. We get deceived. I mean, it's on TV, it's got to be true. It's in the newspaper, it's got to be true. So, you know, now that yet another Republican debate is behind us, and we're seeing how the field shakes out. By the way, I was so happy that Senator Graham and George Pataki just weren't even on the stage. I know I've already said it, but I had to say it again. They're my least two favorite people. George Pataki is a treacherous Catholic. He believes in murdering babies, and Lindsey Graham he's been like worse than the Cowardly Lion in the U.S. Senate. He is the reason why we have Kagan and Sotomayor on the Supreme Court, because he didn't have the guts in his position to stop them. But I digress. Ben Carson, as you know, took a pretty serious beating last weekend, but then bounced back. Raised a ton of money. Like the weekend after he was falsely accused of admitting that he contrived stories. He never admitted it. And he raised $3.5 million. Let me just step back, and this is for you and I to know what it is we're dealing with. A few years ago, Columbia University did research on the top media. And what they found is that 80% of them did not darken a church door, okay? A recent study showed that only 7% of them are Republicans. Now, imagine with me if you are a member of now I'm going to use the one that everyone hates, the Nazi Party, all right? And you're a good journalist. You're a good writer. And you go into Dachau, or you go into Auschwitz, and you're going to write a story about what you see. What do you think the story is going to look like? Okay? What do you think the story is going to look like? It's going to say, we saw nice accommodations, we saw people happy and working for the Third Reich, and even though they are our political enemies, they are being treated humanely. In other words, you're not going to tell the truth. And that is what we are dealing with over and over again with the coverage of Obama, the coverage of Hillary. I mean, think about this with me. Hillary Clinton, when she was Secretary of State, her and her husband raised $500 million. I used to raise a lot of money. I used to travel and raise money. Are these fundraising tours? Is she's traveling, she's trotting around the globe? And hey, I'm going to leave an envelope with you. And when we're done, here's the routing number to our bank account for the Clinton Foundation. $500 million she raised while she was Secretary of State. Does anyone see a conflict of interest here? And Rubio is getting punished over $22,000, where he used the credit card of the Republican Party and then paid it back. $22,000 versus $500 million. Does anyone see the absurdity of this? I think Donald Trump may be right. I think that she really may be running for president so that she stays out of jail. They're hounding and harassing Ben Carson over things that happened in junior high school 50 years ago. And meanwhile, they're not digging into Hillary's emails. Were her servers breached? Did top secret information fall into the hands of our enemies because they're running a server out of a bathroom or a closet, whatever it is? Does anyone see the double standard here? I know you do. But what you have to understand is that the double standard is rooted in ideology and religious beliefs. That's why they hate these people and they adore and protect these people, because they are cut from the same godless cloth. Thanks to friends like you, we have state-of-the-art cameras and state-of-the-art teleprompters and state-of-the-art gear here in the studio. We have one big need, however. We have not yet been able to upgrade our computers. The computers that we use for a television broadcast or to create a documentary are not like the kind that you can just go buy at Best Buy. They are expensive because it takes so much horsepower to create TV series and or documentaries. So I'm asking you, if you want to see this show grow and you want to see us finish the What Would Muhammad Do series, help us get these computers. 3 computers that we need right now are going to be just shy of $20,000. That's the kind of horsepower that we need. Go to the GoFundMe page you see right there. Watch the pilot for What Would Muhammad Do? And if you like the show, give us a gift. Oil. O-I-L. 3 little letters, 1 little word that defines an enormous part of our foreign policy. America produces most of its own oil, and then its second 2 partners where it buys from are Canada or Mexico. It fluctuates back and forth, and the 4th is Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is the largest exporter of oil in the world. Saudi Arabia is also the #1 financier of terrorism. Now, this is you got to follow me on this. The State Department has what are called state sponsors of terrorism. Okay, what that means is that Libya, for example, used to be a state sponsor of terrorism, or North Korea is, and the state takes taxes and then writes a check to terrorist groups. Okay, that's simple enough to follow. That's a state sponsor of terrorism. But the #1 financier of terrorism in the world is Saudi Arabia. But it has not been labeled as a state sponsor of terrorism. Why do you think that is? Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm fixing to tell you. The Saudi family. Did you know that prior to it being called the Saudi Arabia, that's the name of a family? In Muhammad's time, there was no name for the Arabian Peninsula. It was called the Arabian Peninsula. Okay, it's a peninsula. It was called the Arabian Peninsula. The Saudi family cut a deal with some militant Muslims we'll let you have your version of really intense Islam based upon Muhammad's life, and you keep our family in power. You give us credence, credibility, legitimacy. And they've worked this out for quite some time. But the Saudi family is massive, okay? Massive. I mean, when you start thinking through how many hundreds and thousands of cousins there are, because these guys have multiple wives who have many children, and those many children are now part of the House of Saud. They're getting a little bit of that cash. So these wealthy oil sheiks who are by blood related to the king of Saudi Arabia, they're getting enormous sums of money. And some of them have businesses, some of them just get checks, some of them have, the Bin Ladens rose to power or rose to economic success because they worked so closely with the House of Saud, the royal family, and they got one contractor's job after another, and they became magnificently wealthy, all right? And Bin Laden was one of, I don't want to say it wrong, 40-something children. But he was still a millionaire. The guy was the dad was so successful just because of his association with the House of Saud. So the Saudi family is not technically the government. So there are members of the royal household who have funded terrorism, given material support to terrorists. But the U.S. government doesn't call them a state sponsor of terrorism because the $100,000 or the $1 million check is coming out of the pocket of an individual. Now, what drives U.S. foreign policy? Oil and deep water ports. Those are the most two important things. And when I say deep water ports, I mean our military interests. Do they have an airfield? Do they have a base? Do they have a deep water port where we can park a submarine or an aircraft carrier or one of our large naval vessels, okay? Those are what drive America's foreign policy. It used to be, prior to World War II, it was driven by human rights. Our immigration policy, George Washington talked about it. People were coming here because we did not have an agenda. Our agenda was freedom. After World War II, the dollar became the currency of the world. America became the head of NATO, and America became the de facto policeman of the world. So now, we're not interested in human rights. If we were, we would bring down the Saudi regime. I want you to think about this with me. The Saudi Arabian regime is far more cruel, vicious, murderous, rapacious than the Libyan regime under Muammar Gaddafi ever thought of being. In Libya, you can have churches, right? In Libya, you can have churches. In Syria, you can have churches. I mean, we might not like Assad, but there's still Christian churches that are there, or ISIS is wiping them out. But the Saudi Arabians, they sell us oil. We get a lot of oil from them, and we need them. We need their oil. We don't get oil from Syria. So if you want to look, oh, I can't believe what Assad is doing to his people. Look at what the family of Saudi Arabia does to theirs. Look at what Amnesty International says about Saudi Arabia. These are criminals. These are enemies of God and man. And yet we consider them one of our key allies in the region. I'm educating you so that you can know what to hate and what to love, because, as we all know, hatred is a family value. The Bible says that the fear of the Lord is to hate evil. Anyway, I'll be right back. Christians must be involved in government, period. If Christians weren't involved in government, we would not have a United States of America. And there have been brilliant Christian minds over the centuries, such as John Locke, who is called the philosopher of American liberty. He was quoted by Clarence Thomas in his recent dissent on the homosexual marriage decision. If we don't understand John Locke, we don't understand the founding of America. I want to send you this book and my book, The Sword, subtitled The Blessing of Righteous Government and The Overthrow of Tyrants. I want to send you these two books for a gift of whatever you can afford. Pay the $8 shipping and handling, which does not cover our costs, and then give a gift of whatever size you want, and we'll send you these books. If you cannot afford anything but the $8, can't even afford that, write us a note, and we'll send them to you for free. I want you to have these books so that you can be better equipped to fight in the political arena. Come on, order them today. I took myself off my notes. I apologize. Here's what I want to talk to you about. Saudi oil, price of oil, the Keystone Pipeline, and China. Where do we start? Let's start with the Keystone Pipeline. As you know, Obama has said no to the Keystone Pipeline. Why would he do that? Think about it. Think about it with me. It's a political agenda. Putting in the Keystone Pipeline could put us in a position where we not only created tons of jobs for Americans, which it would, not only would it not be a danger to us, we're big people. We know how to run pipes underground. We've got them all over the country. We don't have disasters. It's baloney. It's about keeping us dependent on foreign oil, okay? The Keystone Pipeline could have been a key part in making us energy independent, at least from the Middle East, okay? If we could just buy all of our oil from America, Mexico, and Canada, that would be a heck of a lot better situation, because then we don't need any Middle Eastern tyrant to supply our oil. Saudi Arabia, part of OPEC, which is a criminal cartel, okay? If they were in America, they would be in prison because it's price fixing. Well, Saudi Arabia has broken rank and said, we're just going to keep pumping oil. It was up at high of like 115 not too long ago, and now it's down to in the $50 range, okay? So what does that mean for us? It means that we have $1.99 gas again. Those are the prices from 10 years ago. I'm happy. I love it. I love having to pay $1.99 for gas. But we could pay $1.99, maybe even less, with drilling in Anwar in Alaska with a Keystone pipeline, okay? So why is Saudi Arabia doing this? Because it's putting an enormous crunch on them financially. They're doing it because they want people to stop fracking and other means of getting oil out of the ground. When gasoline is in the $3 and $3.50 range, Saudi Arabia is making it financially feasible for the development of other sources of fossil fuel and other alternative energies. And so Saudi Arabia is doing the $50 a barrel to cut the legs out from underneath entrepreneurs and other sources of energy to keep us addicted to their oil, which leads me to China. The reason that America, we're disintegrating, okay? We're disintegrating as a people. And Walmart is a part of the disintegration. And we have problems. And I don't want to sound like Jimmy Carter. Towards the end of his presidency, he decided to tell America that you're too materialistic and there's something wrong with you. And that didn't go well with the voters. Look, I'm not running for office. When we first started doing heavy trading with China, I mean heavy trading, we were still negotiating every year most favored nation status, and the aisles of Walmart still were loaded with products made in America. I went to various Christian leaders. At that point in my life, my career as a public figure, I had a high enough profile to get through to pretty much anyone I wanted on the religious right. And I started saying to them, look, we need to band together and have a massive boycott of all things Chinese, of all Chinese products. I went through a mall once and I cried, I wept, because I could not buy a watch for my daughter, a Mickey Mouse watch that was not made in China. I could not find a Mickey Mouse watch that was not made in China, and I cried. I thought, oh God, what has happened? So then I made it a personal study, like let's look around, let's see where things are coming from. Going up and down the aisles of Walmart over the years, and watching. For years, I boycotted Chinese products. Just would not buy anything made in China. And then I came to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. It literally became impossible to buy certain things because they were all made in China. What's this connection to Saudi Arabia? I'm going to tell you. Bread and circuses. Bread and circuses. If we only pay $1.99 for our gas, we can go see the movies. We can go do what we want. Everything is cheaper. And if we can get our circuses, all right, our televisions, our DVD players, our Blu-ray players, our Nintendos, our games, we can get these things on the cheap, we're happier. We're more content. I don't mean that we should be happier, but most people are just happier. They're more content to live with wages being stagnant or even declining. Think of what's happened with the most favored nation status with China. Our manufacturing infrastructure as a people has all but been destroyed. I lived in a town where IBM started. It's gone. I lived where the largest shoe manufacturing plant in the world was. Binghamton, New York. Binghamton, Endicott, Johnson City, the Tri-City area. Gone. Okay? Smith Corona typewriters. Gone. Gavin copiers, gone. They're just gone. Why? China. And so now if you go to the Tri-City area, it's squalor. It's just horrendous poverty, people on welfare. It's horrifying. But it was done because of greed from way up here and not caring about our workers here, but it's been sustained because of China, because we can get our bells and whistles, our toys, and now even our food, even tilapia and shrimp are coming from China, okay? That is part of why we are collapsing as a nation. We put our own desires, we put our own happiness, our own bells and whistles ahead of, oh look, China's murdering millions of babies every year. China's probably murdered 200 million babies by forced abortion. They forcefully kill babies over there, but man, they make great TVs. And if you gotten that new video game yet, that is awesome. That's really sorry. It's really tragic about that forced abortion thing. But man, look at this. Friend, this TV show represents a mission. It's to be a voice of resistance to the evil in the land, but also to inspire people like you to take a stand at any level that you might be able to equip you, to inspire you, to challenge you, to give you the rhetorical ammunition that you need. But we still have to pay bills. This program, as you know if you're a regular viewer, we don't spend a lot of time raising money. We don't spend a lot of time saying, oh, you need to buy this and we're going to run. No, we're bringing you a message, but we still have bills that we need to pay. I'm asking you, if you have been blessed by this show, to please go to our website or send a check to the address you see on the screen or call the phone number that you see on the screen and use your credit card and to give $50 or $100 or $500 just to help us meet our normal expenses. And we'll keep bringing you this hard-hitting show. Have you seen the Joshua Feuerstein video on Facebook or YouTube or whatever? This is the guy who's played a little prank on Starbucks because Starbucks doesn't put Merry Christmas on their cups. Watch this.
Hey guys, what's up? Josh Feuerstein here. You know, I think in the age of political correctness, we become so open-minded, our brains have literally fallen out of our head. Do you realize that Starbucks wanted to take Christ and Christmas off of their brand new cups? That's why they're just plain red. In fact, do you realize that Starbucks isn't allowed to say Merry Christmas to customers? Well, I decided instead of simply boycotting, well, why don't we just start a movement? So when I went in and I asked for my coffee, they asked for my name, and I told them my name is Merry Christmas. So guess what, Starbucks? I tricked you into putting Merry Christmas on your cup. And I'm challenging all great Americans and Christians around this great nation, go into Starbucks and take your own coffee selfie. And then I challenge you to not only share this video so that the word gets out, but let's start a movement. And let's call it, I don't know, hashtag Merry Christmas Starbucks. And I know that by sharing this video and getting other Christians to do it, well, I guarantee that we can make this go around the world. And Starbucks, guess what? Just to offend you, I made sure to wear my Jesus Christ shirt into your store. And since you hate the Second Amendment, I even carried my gun. Yikes.
All right, so Donald Trump, as you might have also heard, got in on the action and said maybe we should boycott Starbucks. Well, can I just say this in closing? If you're going to boycott Starbucks, then you might want to consider doing it because they support the murder of babies, they support same-gender marriage, they are against the Second Amendment. You might want to boycott them because they are God haters. Oh, by the way, did I just actually say that? Yes. And let me explain. It's a very scriptural concept. Jesus said, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. Right? That's it. And if you reject God's commandments, then you don't love God. You hate God. And throughout the Old and New Testament, this concept exists. So some person said, well, they don't hate Jesus. No, really they do, because they're killing Jesus' babies. They're killing his babies. And they support killing his babies. And they're attacking the sacrament of marriage, the covenant of marriage. They really don't like Jesus. They really don't. And that's why they're not going to say Merry Christmas, because their ethics are self-consciously against Christ and Christianity. So if you're going to boycott them, it might be for that reason. Otherwise, go ahead, write Merry Christmas on the cup, and then every one of them will be going, Merry Christmas.